Those people fill it in anonymously, then it comes back to you and you have this like thick wad of paper that basically fully describes yourself. Printed it off and I read it and I was so upset and annoyed. That was a load of rubbish, wasn't it? That's nothing like me. And then she said, that's the most you thing I have ever read. And then it was like, that was it. It was like, I didn't even say anything. I remember like everything came crashing down around me because
there's no self-development without self-awareness.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I still to this day, I've spoken to a lot of people on this podcast, I have no idea how you make someone genuinely self-aware. And when you're talking there about sitting down and writing a list of my goods and bads, how do we know that our own like delusion and ego isn't writing that list on our behalf?
I mean, you could ask someone else to do it. The first really, the time it hit home for me, and it was like a ton of bricks on the top of my head, was I did a 360 feedback. So anyone that doesn't know what a 360 feedback is, I'm sure you can find it online if you Google it. But basically, you ask the people around you to describe you, and it like prompts you as it goes. So Ben is, I don't know, X, Y, and Z. Those people fill it in anonymously, then it comes back to you, and you have this like thick wad of paper that basically fully describes yourself. And I actually did this it was around when we met, so around 2015, and I had it, and I printed it off, and I read it, and I was so upset and annoyed, and I remember thinking, this is not me. And I took it home that night.
What did it say?
And it was just erratic, hot-headed, arrogant, poor manager, like all these things.
From your employees?
Yeah. And it's one of them, like, so the first thing, and completely natural, is who said that? I want to find them, right? That's the first thing. Now, fortunately, it's anonymous. You can't do that. And that would be terrible anyway. But then I read it, I took it home, left it on the side, and I think, I don't know what I'd done, I'd gone to the gym or whatever else. Now, my other half, who's now my wife, ended up reading it, and I'd come home and I'd seen her literally just finishing it on the last couple of pages, and I was so angry, right? I literally grabbed it off her and I said, "This is mine, don't read it. Like, it's not even me anyway, is it?" Blah, blah, blah. Left her alone, and we just carried on with our day. And then like later on, I said the same. I said, that was a load of rubbish, wasn't it? That's nothing like me. And then she said, that's the most you thing I have ever read. And then it was like, that was it. It was like, I didn't even say anything. I remember like everything came crashing down around me because there was nowhere to hide. Like, she knows me more than anyone. And like, I can kick and I can scream and I can say, no, it's not true. But in my heart of hearts, I knew it was true. And that was the moment I realized I have to change, I have to improve, I have to develop. And if you're talking about becoming self-aware, I think that was my moment.
So incredibly true how our partners know us.
Yeah.
They can be the most hurtful, but as you said, completely accurately said there, like if my girlfriend says something to me, I might on the surface be like, oh. Yeah. But then I get back to my room and I'm like, oh my God, like once your ego's had like a couple of seconds to chill. So you get this list of feedback. I remember doing the 360 thing with my team as well. And I remember the same feeling, like, who the fuck said that? Yeah. Like, and trying to work it out and like looking at everybody, like, I know it was you. Yeah. To my assistant. So you get that list of things back and you can see areas where you need to improve and you agree, you say, okay, right, I'm going to start listening. What happens, like, how do you go about improving on those things? Because a lot of them are so like deeply ingrained in you from decades of your childhood or whatever. And especially when you're a winner, when you've been successful in one thing, it validates you. It almost appears to be like validation of everything. So what do you do then? What do you do next?
Yeah, and you're right. So that's the dangerous thing. And I think that's why I was so fortunate, because Gymshark, for the most part, not entirely, had been very successful until that point. So it was difficult for me to go, well, wait a minute, I can't be that bad, right? But yeah, I think the thing with Robin where she literally put it on me, that was the moment. So what I did then, and I was actually watching, it was a Gary Vee video that I was watching actually. So what I did was I had the weaknesses, which were both self-defined but defined by other people. I also had my strengths, because by the way, your strengths come back with a 360. No one reads them. You only look at the weaknesses, right? But there is a list of strengths in there somewhere. And I realized that my strengths, particularly at the time, were around creativity, around product, around brand, around marketing, around understanding the industry, the customer, and so on. So I was mulling the idea, do I work on my weaknesses? Do I focus on my strengths? And to be honest, I don't really know the answer to what the best way of doing this is, but I decided through, I think it was a Gary video, to focus on my strengths. And I said, right, do you know what I'm going to do? I'm 24. I'm purely going to focus on my strengths now. And that's when I went into a brand role, a product role, a marketing role. Everything that was front end and creative at Gymshark, I completely lent into. That was when Steve came into the business. Steve became the CEO. So I was sort of like the responsibility of maybe some of the areas I was weaker at, finance, ops, management. That was then like moved away from me. And I purely, completely and utterly focused on those
And that was
things.
your decision?
Yeah.
It's a pretty amazing decision.
It was heartbreaking as well because again, it's one thing moving yourself out of a role. It's another thing moving someone then into that role who does it really good. And like, I'm looking at them, I'm like, you're way better than me. And I just have to like know that. To be honest, I think I use that as motivation to one day be as good as that. That was the inspiration. I think maybe because I was young, I knew I had time, and I think that helped. But it was heartbreaking because the other thing as well is, that doesn't mean to say exclusively everything Steve did, for example, I thought was right. It just, there was things that he did where I thought maybe I wouldn't do that, or I would think differently. And sometimes he would be right and sometimes he would be wrong. But what I can't do, and this is the weird balance, right? Because I'm founder and I am like a majority shareholder of the business. So ultimately I have control of the business. But there's no point in me putting him as CEO and then just overruling what he says. He's in the CEO because he's the best person for the job, and I have to trust his judgment and opinion. And it's that weird balance of that. And I never have to this day played what we'd call like the shareholder card. I've never come in and gone, this is the way it's going to be just because. So yeah, then I was fortunate enough to watch Steve, learn from Steve, and that really helped. And this was the beginning, I think, of the period where I was sort of becoming a CEO, because I started off as the chief of brand, right? So the business was smaller at this stage. I can't remember the exact size. We'll say 20, 30 million in revenue maybe. And I managed the creative, the imagery, the videography, the athletes and sponsorships and all these different things, the events. And that was cool because I got a real detailed understanding of all those things, like really detailed. I was in the nuts and bolts of everything. Funnily enough, it then happened again. A guy called Noel came in who was way better than me, and he came in as the chief of brand. So again, I'm sort of left a little bit high and dry. I was CEO, now I'm not. Chief of brand, now I'm not.
You brought him in as well?
Yeah, so he actually came in and reported into me, but it was clear within a year or so that he was better. So I vacate the seat, he comes in, and he's done a great job since. Then I think after that I think it was product for a little bit, which was great fun. Oh, sorry, I did marketing, which was great fun. And marketing is it's what it says in the tin, right? All the marketing, all the ads that you see online, everything that comes with that. And that was great fun. And I learned a lot there. I traveled the world. I spent time with Facebooks, Googles, all the partners like that. And I learned a hell of a lot there.
Did you feel a bit lost at this point? Because having gone from CEO to brand to marketing, typically when an employee in my company does that, yeah. I tend to get the impression that they kind of know they're being moved around a little bit like a chess piece. And it's like, they don't feel like they ever fully own something, or that. Yeah, so I've had that, but I had that for 5 or 6 years, because then it was branding to marketing to product. There was tech for a little bit. I've moved around a lot. So this CEO role it's the first genuine home I've found since sort of running the business back in 2013, 2014.
If you love the Diary of a CEO brand and you watch this channel, please do me a huge favor. Become part of the 15% of the viewers on this channel that have hit the subscribe button. It helps us tremendously, and the bigger the channel gets, the bigger the guests.